Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Iyad and I'm back with another video. Sorry for the delay in between videos. I'm just real lazy, not gonna lie. I had this video in mind for like quite a while. I keep procrastinating and forgetting about doing it for like quite a while now, which is pretty bad. Yeah, let's get started with this video. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This video will be about what, in my humble opinion, is the strongest argument against Islam. The argument is, does the author of the Quran think the earth is flat? Now, how the argument can be made is in some of the verses in the Quran. For example, in Surah Al-Ghashiyah, where Allah says, وَإِلَى الْأَرْضِ كَيْفَ سُطِحَتْ, which in English means and how the earth was flattened. And there are many other verses that could imply the flat earth. For example, there's a verse that says like the earth has been made as a bed, another one, and there are other verses, right? So those are the verses that are used to make the arguments. People see these verses and say, oh, this is obviously this obviously means that Allah thinks the earth is flat. Let me just debunk these verses, then show some other verses which prove that no, that's not the case. Okay? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the verse inside of Surah Al-Ghashiyah, where God tells us and how the earth was flattened, if you look at the context, the verse is asking a rhetorical question: do they not look or do they not see? Right? Obviously, when with our eyes, what we see the earth is flat. I mean, yeah, we with our eyes see it as flat. He obviously wouldn't say, "Oh, do they not look at how the earth is round? How would they look at that?" Back then, they didn't even have telescopes. That would be asking such a how would you make a rhetorical question out of that? It doesn't even work, right? And also, if you actually put some thought into that verse, if the earth being flat was so normal, why would God ask us to look at it as a sign? One thing we don't think about enough is how, even though the earth is not flat, we see it and interact with it as if it's flat. That is a sign. So when Allah tells us to look at the earth and how it's flattened, that's actually a sign that actually implies the earth is not flat. Yeah, no, it might sound crazy. I know that sounds a bit crazy, but it does make sense when you think about it. Hello? Yeah, okay, anyways. So, yeah, that's something. Another thing I'd like to mention is, so the other verses, I don't have them memorized, but I'm sure I can pull them out late in the edit while I'm editing it. But basically, that's how the meaning applies for all of them. When God says the earth is flat or like a bed, that's just how we interact with it. He doesn't say its shape is a bed or something like that, right? He says we've made the earth a bed for you, right? Because to us it does feel like a bed. It's flat. That's how it feels to us. That does not mean that that's how it is, obviously. Now, there is a verse in the Quran where Allah says, يكور الليل على النهار ويكور النهار على الليل. He circles the night over the day and the day over the night, or the opposite, I don't remember it exactly, right? The word yukawwir here just proves how the author of the Quran knows that the earth is not flat. Yukawwir is circling something over something that's circular. For example, let's say I have a rope and I circle it over a ball, then in the Arabic I say يكور, right? So how can, and that is how it happens with the night and day, right? Uh, what go the earth is a circular thingy, and what moves and what gets circled around is the earth itself. It circles over itself, right? So from these verses we can actually deduce that the author of the Quran knows the earth is not flat. He's well aware of it. The wording implies it. There's also the other verse. There's a verse where Allah says, ثم بعد ذلك ضحاها. The word ضحاها here all can mean, the word ضحاها comes from like the origin of ضحاي, which is when I think it's an ostrich, an ostrich prepares to lay its egg. So I've seen some people argue that, oh, this word here means that the earth is an oval shape. While that argument is possible, it's unlikely, and the classical scholars never thought of this. So I'd say we back off of that explanation, because especially since we already have explanations that work like it. And remember, we do not choose the Quran's meaning based on our desires or based on if it fits science. Science fits the Quran, not the Quran fits science. There's a difference, right? The Quran is the supreme authority over everything. We don't care. So that's kinda it. Yeah, I know. Very lackluster for what was supposed to be the strongest argument, isn't it? It's just tragic. And okay, why not? Let's just throw some more points to reinforce that the author of the Quran is very aware of the cosmos. In one of the verses, God says, He swears by the day as it breathes. Scientifically speaking, in the start of in the morning, right? The oxygen, when the morning comes, the oxygen goes into the land, and then it's ejected as carbon dioxide. Exactly how we breathe, right? We take the oxygen and we remove it as carbon dioxide, which is exactly what happens in the morning. So that's a very interesting thing for the author of the Quran to say, right? That's a miracle. That's one thing. Another thing, there's a verse in the Quran where Allah swears by the two signs of the day and night. He says the sign of the day He made it clear, and the sign of the night He took away from it its light, right? So what is the sign of the day and sign of light? Obviously the signs of the day and light are the sun and moon. Duh. So God says He took away the light from the moon. Do y'all know how impressive that knowledge is? We know that back then the moon used to be a glowing ball of heat. The heat used to emit light, but then, right, the light got removed. It eventually became rocks and how it is. How would the author of the Quran know that, right? And since He knows all of these things, it's really unreasonable to think that He would know all of this yet somehow still not know that the earth was round, especially when many verses can imply it. So yeah, long story short, that's all the argument has. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.